So I feel as if one of the most controversial characters in Overwatch that has always been there is Mercy. And I think a lot of people say what I put in the title, that just all Mercy players, all Mercy mains, these characters, these players are complete and utter garbage. They don't know what they're doing. Every time I have them on my team, they just can't do anything. They can't switch to anyone else. And personally, I'm going to talk about why I don't think it's always that case, but why it might seem like that to you, and why it might seem like to a lot of players that Mercy mains just aren't that great, and kind of explain why that might be going through your mind. Now again, before we begin, I do not agree with that situation or that sentiment. I do think that there's a lot to be done with Mercy again, so please, no hate towards me. I'm just trying to explain this out to people that can't really figure it out. So let's start off from the very basic get-go, and that is, I think, the fact that Mercy doesn't really share that much skills with other characters, and I think that's kind of hard to get your head around. With a lot of other characters, you know, they have similar kit designs. If you look at Mora and Symmetra, well, they both have a bit of the suck. If you look at somebody like Soldier and McCree, well, they're kind of similar in that case. And even when you just look at anything, there's always a lot of aim design into the game. But Mercy really isn't about that. Mercy isn't really about having high impact plays that can do a lot for your team. Mercy isn't really about popping off for your teammates and carrying that round like maybe a Lucio or Zen could do. Mercy is about keeping people alive and being very consistent in doing that. And that might make you feel like she's not ever doing anything, but that's kind of how the character works. It feels like she's not doing much, but that's just because she's consistently doing the same thing always. And I think the fact that nobody other than Mercy does this, I think that makes it kind of hard to kind of figure out why Mercy feels kind of off when I guess you're playing with one of them. Now, another thing that I think is important to cover about Mercy mains is that, yeah, aim is not really required with these players. I mean, you don't need almost any aim at all to play with Mercy. You can play with 100 sends, 20 billion DPI, maybe not that much, but pretty much whatever, and you'll be able to heal people decently well. And as long as you can kind of aim, I guess, who you want to heal, that's going to be good enough for you as Mercy. And I think a lot of people kind of think that since she doesn't need to aim, that there is zero skill required. But I think you have to realize that while aiming can be an important component of the game, in a lot of characters, it's not really. In a lot of metas, it's not really. I think I'd like to even point to Ana in a certain situation. With Ana, you often think of a character that has to be very high skilled, a player that has to be able to hit shots, snipe the enemies, go for those sleep darts, everything like that. But if we go to Season 3 with tank meta, Ana didn't have to do any of that. I mean, Ana could kind of play similarly to Mercy. All you had to do was be a heal bot, spam at your tanks, almost impossible to miss. I think that's something a lot of people kind of forget about. Aim isn't required, but there's still other things about Mercy that can be important and that can kind of show the difference between a good and a bad Mercy. And I feel like the most important thing about Mercy is, of course, first off, target prioritization, making sure that you have your heals, that you have your damage boost, that you're not wasting any time at all, and of course that you're making sure you're in a good position to do all that. But I think the number one most important thing that's hard to tell between a good and a bad Mercy is positioning. And I think it's especially hard because sometimes a Mercy might even have pretty good positioning, but maybe the enemy Tracer is just extremely good and you aren't really protecting your Mercy. She's gonna die. Doesn't really matter where she positions in a lot of cases. But I'm gonna say in general again, a lot of Mercy players do have to have great positioning if they want to climb past a certain point. If you want to get past Diamond or Masters as Mercy, you can't just stay behind your team, hold down that button just at random locations and hope that it works. At a certain point, if you do that, you're going to get sniped by Widow, you're going to get killed by even Reaper, Junkrat, just a lot of different characters. You have to make sure that you're at the right place at the right time always and minimize your chance of death more than any other character. Positioning is important as everybody, but I think with Mercy, it's especially important because you have no way to fight back. The way you fight back is by not being in the fight at all, which again could make you think that, hey, these players just are complete garbage because, you know, they're not fighting anyone, they're not doing anything. But I think the ability to ignore the necessary fights to play this character is actually very hard to come by, and that's why there's a half okay amount of Mercies in the top 500, but really not way too much anymore, and why it is kind of hard to get to super high ranks as this character. I'm going to say that overall Mercy is a pretty low skill cap hero and probably as well a pretty low skill floor hero. You can get into her quite easily and you can reach a pretty peak performance with her without way too much effort as well as far as mechanics, but as well, you have to remember positioning, timing, callouts, everything else is important in Overwatch. And just because somebody can easily master, or at least do pretty well with the mechanics of Mercy without way too much effort, doesn't mean that that player is bad at everything else that's required to play her. And you can't discount everything else as well is required to play the character. I think a lot of people just think that since she's mechanically easy, everything else about her is extremely just unimportant. And I'd really argue differently than that. So I do think that there is, again, mainly with positioning, with timing, important things that may not seem important until you're in the top level, until you're in that Overwatch League, until you're in that Masters, Grandmasters, maybe even Diamond. But at those ranks, you can really see the difference between a good and a decent Mercy. Now, another thing I'd like to talk about, other than I guess just the main things about Mercy, which I just went over, is the fact that a lot of Mercy players will duo queue, and I think a lot of people say instantly, since you're duo queuing, that you are just getting boosted. And I guess in some cases, you are correct, that could happen. I'm not going to say that's impossible, but in a lot of cases, you see Mercies playing with people who have only had about a season high as close as them. Let's say the Mercy has a season high of 3,100, and you have like a DPS with a season high, or even a career high of like 3,200. Really, is that player getting boosted? I mean, they're playing with someone just about their rank, just about their skill level. I wouldn't really argue that that's the case. But what I would argue is that as a Mercy player, it often feels like you kind of have to duo, and that is a very important, I guess, skill or important necessity to try to duo, because Mercy works so well in that situation. You can boost up your teammates that you know are going to be doing good all the time. You can keep them alive, you can res them, you can pocket them, you can focus on them. And as Mercy, as I was saying earlier, you do have a lot of consistency, but as far as solo carrying, what can you really do as this character? Not way too much. So it makes sense to why you would play with someone else that can play a character that could probably somewhat carry, and you could make their possibility and their chance of carrying become so much higher because you're making it so much easier for them with all the healing, with all the damage boost, with the great timing, and all of that put together. I think that's something a lot of people kind of mess up on and think that just because you're duo queuing that you're completely terrible. That could be the case in some situations, but I think in the majority of them, it's kind of not fair to assume that in a game. Now, something I'm going to say right here is something that I'm actually going to kind of blast a lot of Mercy players on. And it's not about their skill, and it's not about their play, and it's not about anything with their character or anything like that. It's about the fact that I think too many Mercy mains are very quiet in their games. And when I compare playing with Mercy mains to playing with other support mains, I think in my games, Mercy mains are very quiet. Mercy mains are not shot calling, and I think they really should be. And I think if you were shot calling for your team, we're kind of helping them know when to go in, when to stay out. You were using your good vantage points with the height that you can get with Guardian Angel, or with just, you being in the backline and being able to see everything. I think that would make you feel a lot more useful for your team, and a lot more people would probably acknowledge that you're doing a lot. Right now, when I play a lot of games with Mercies, they just kind of stay quiet, and I don't know exactly why. I'd say that if you are a Mercy player, and if you do want to start to feel like you're having more impact, you want to start to feel like you're doing more, and you really want your teammates to start to feel that same way as well, and to not complain about you, start trying to call out plays with your extra time, because really your team will acknowledge this. Whenever I have to fill as Mercy, I just make shot calls because I'm not that great as her, and my team is pretty thankful for that. So honestly, that's something you guys do have to get on. Now, the final thing I'm going to say, which is why I think a lot of people think Mercies are boosted, is that they actually were systematically boosted in previous seasons. A few seasons ago, before we had the skill-based system removed from Diamond and above, Mercy, for some reason, just always broke the system. I mean, you could have like a 48% win rate and get to Grandmaster, and we saw many players do that. And even currently, there still is the skill-based system below Diamond, and you can have a pretty bad win rate, but just have good overall heals and still get to Diamond. So I could see why some people might think that Mercies just aren't that great because they're getting boosted by the system. But as it is right now, if you're looking at anybody Diamond and above, I don't really think you can put that case in the case at all, because she doesn't get helped at all anymore by the system. And if you just kind of have that in mind, I guess, that, she's getting boosted by the system, it's all going like this Mercy player is really not that great, that's just not how it works anymore, honestly. And if she's gotten to a certain rank, or I guess he's gotten to a certain rank, they deserve that rank. And especially if you see somebody like solo queue Mercy main, they especially deserve that rank. And I think you really shouldn't just think that, hey, the system's boosted them, because honestly, that's not really how it works anymore. And I'd like to kind of get that myth out of the way, because you know, it is kind of a myth now. It wasn't in the past, honestly. It was a thing that boosted her a lot. But right now, Diamond and above, they kind of deserve to get that rank. Even if it might be easier to get a certain rank as Mercy just because she can do a lot with not quite as much effort, I still think you can't undervalue the time and effort that they are putting into the game. But anyways, as always, guys, thank you all for watching. That's just what I wanted to say about Mercy today, about why a lot of people think that this player or this type of player is just not very good at the game. I'm sorry if I went over my own points a little bit too much. I always do that, but I hope that you guys enjoyed anyways. And if you're a Mercy main, try to start shot calling a little bit more, and honestly, you probably will be a lot more happy with how your teammates treating you in that sense. And I hope that can kind of explain to you guys why I think a lot of people don't think Mercy mains are maybe the best. With all that said, though, guys, thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Leave a like if you did, or leave a comment talking about who you want me to talk about in the next video, or if you want any more videos like this about characters. Press the subscribe button if you want them as well. And as always, guys, have a wonderful day.